Welcome to the Boxing Gossip channel. Please hit subscribe if you are new. Tomorrow is fight day. We're all getting pretty hyped now for Chris Eubank Jr. versus George Groves. Looks like it's going to be an absolutely fantastic fight. I've just watched the weigh-in. Interesting. Eubank Jr. for me looking by far the better of the two men. Now the first thing to note, Eubank had talked in the lead up to this fight that he was already well under fight weight. He's actually weighed in, well, according to the announcer, he's weighed in at 76 kilos, which is less than half a pound under the limit for super middleweight. So, all of that talk about being well under the super middleweight limit, he's actually come in pretty much on it, which is what I suspected all along. Eubank, for me, is a guy who he isn't a massive super middleweight by any stretch. He's a smaller man than the likes of George Groves, but I've always believed it was uncomfortable for him to continue making weight at 160, the middleweight limit. And we see him at 168 and he's in great shape. And he's always in great shape. We're used to that with Chris Eubank. He looks strong, he looks fit, he looks athletic, he doesn't look too drained. Obviously in fantastic physical condition, as has been the case throughout his career. He looks strong, happy, comfortable. Groves comes out, and I'll go as far as to say George Groves did not look like George Groves. If you walk past that individual in the street, I'm not even 100% sure you'd realise you'd walk past George Groves. That guy looked very, 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 very drained, uncomfortably so. His actual appearance of his face, for me, had changed because he was so drained. Now, Groves has always been a big guy. He's always been a very, very, very big physique for 168. And I've always talked on this channel for years now about maybe one day him needing to find his way up to light heavyweight. So we know he drains himself down to make 168. We know when he rehydrates, by the time he steps into the ring, he will be a significantly heavier man than Chris Eubank Jr. But the way he looked today makes me question just how much has cutting that weight taken it out of him this time round. Appreciate that he's made the weight class before many times, including recently, but it doesn't get any easier as you get older. And at 29 years of old, which I believe is Groves' current age, it must be getting more and more difficult each time. The World Boxing Super Series, the setup on the stage seemed to be that there were two private areas behind where the fighters square off where they could go and get changed. Straight after he weighs in, immediately after, you see Groves take a bottle of water and start rehydrating immediately. He then disappears into the private area on the stage, presumably to get changed, and he actually stays there for quite a period, a minute or two. I believe at one point Eubank gestures to the crowd and says something to the effect of he doesn't want to come back. I don't know what was going on there. I don't know if Groves was very, very thirsty and was taking in a pint of water or 2 pints of water or whatever it was. But he looked for me like a guy who was very, very drained. And with Groves' tendency to have one or two stamina queries, so we say, over his head in fights, and with the kind of pressure that Eubank brings and the output that Eubank brings, anyone who, like myself, was worried about Groves fading down the stretch will be even more worried now, having seen Groves at the weigh-in, because to me he did not look like a guy who was in the best possible condition you could be in a day before what may turn out to be the biggest and toughest fight of his life. We'll have to find out. Clearly, Groves is the bigger man. We've talked about the power angle in the lead up to the fight, and clearly, if Groves can use his size and use his strength, that will be to his positive. But if the fight goes long, if we see this fight in the second half, even if Groves has taken an early lead, I will be increasingly worried after this that Groves will fade down the stretch and be vulnerable to the style of fight that Eubank can bring in the second half of the fight. It's a fascinating matchup. I'm very excited for it. Continue to look forward to it. I do question George Groves' future at 168. I've been questioning it for a few years now. After seeing this weigh-in, I personally think it's the worst I've seen him look. Eubank, yeah, he looked very, very comfortable for me. Let me know your thoughts. Leave your comments in the section below. Agree, disagree, you tell me. I am picking Eubank to win the fight. I'm not some Eubank fanboy. I've picked against Eubank in the past. But I'm my head is telling me Eubank's going to win this fight, and I've seen nothing at the weigh-in to weaken that. Let me know your thoughts. If you've enjoyed the content, please subscribe. Please hit the thumbs up. We'll be covering the fight tomorrow on fight day, of course. So please do press subscribe if you want to check out all the coverage. And yeah, thanks for tuning in.